Good evening, you're watching NDTV 24/7. This is the social network, and today we saw a very important and a very interesting bill come up for discussion in front of Parliament, and we're going to be taking up the primary issue behind it. In the marriage law amendment bill, should women be getting assets or not? And the larger question of whether marriage is a partnership, should there be an equitable division once that partnership comes to an end? The Union Cabinet, of course, brought it up and then promptly sent it to a group of ministers, which shows they need to discuss it further, and therefore, of course, so do we. And joining us to discuss this from the Safe Family Foundation, Rajan Bhasin, also Assistant Professor at National Law University, Delhi, Aparna Chandra. Flavia Agnes joins us from Mumbai, lawyer and women's rights activist, and Sambit Patra, member of BJP, also joining us. So we're going to be really taking you through all the crucial issues that surround this particular amendment being brought to the marriage law. If, of course, the nod comes from the cabinet, what are the pros, what are the cons, and whether anybody has thought it through as closely as something as crucial as this, affecting so many people. Pretty much everybody really across the country needs to be thought through. But before that, we do have a video blog that was sent in, and we're going to take a look at what Naresh Prabhu Desai has to say, and after that we'll get talking. Well, we'll bring you that up for you in a moment, but first of all, let's take a closer look at exactly what this amendment says. And for that, Aparna, let's go over to you first. Let's break down what this particular amendment means when it's says. And for that, Aparna, let's go over to you first. Let's break down what this particular amendment means when it says that all property, which includes inherited property and acquired property, a part of that will be given to the woman in case of divorce. How does that play in to the larger rights that women need to get in the post-divorce scenario?
So that's a very good question, and we need to step back a little bit and just see what is the discourse around a woman's role in marriage currently as it exists today. And here's the thing, we've moved from a discourse where a woman is treated as a husband's property to a discourse where a woman is treated as someone that needs to be protected by the husband. We've still not moved to that situation where a woman is to be treated as an equal partner in a marriage. And so how does that play out in the law? If you look at the current maintenance law, a wife has to be maintained by the husband if she can't maintain herself, if she has been and she's entitled to maintenance only if she hasn't been unchaste, not my words, the words of the law. If she is living in adultery or refuses to live with her husband without just cause, she is not entitled to maintenance. She does not have a right. This is the framework is that of charity, and if she is given up her entitlement to this charity, then she is not going to be getting that protection. And this protection model again applies to the entire judicial discourse around maintenance, because the court says that this entire maintenance law is an anti-vagrancy provision to protect the woman. We can't protect the woman, she will become a destitute and a burden on society, so let the husband protect her. We need to move from that to recognize that a woman has an equal contribution to make. The woman makes an equal contribution. We don't assign it monetary value, and we need to assign it monetary value. Her contribution needs to be recognized, which is why she has to be given rights, not charity, but rights to property acquired during marriage.
So, of course, there have been counter-arguments to this, and I'm going to ask Rajan to step in there. Rajan, the counter-argument is that this will lead to men being exploited. So do you feel that denying women this right is the way to stop men being exploited?
Absolutely. See, what my friend is talking about the maintenance. So maintenance laws and the property law has nothing to do with it. First thing first, if you are making a law which itself is giving a property to wife, why does not you make it as a general neutral? If a wife is having a rights on my property or my inherited property, why the husband is not having the rights on the same property of the father and grandfathers of the wife? So why don't we make it a general neutral? And why there is no clause where a woman is filing a divorce, why a husband cannot oppose it? In this clause, a wife is having a right to oppose the divorce if it is filed by husband. But why husband is not having a right to oppose even if you are giving a right to kasab to protest himself? Why not to the husband? Okay, and the second thing, there is no duration of marriage mentioned. Even if a girl enter into my house, walks away next day, if she doesn't want, she is not happy in my married life, after one day she can have my whole property of 50%. Where are my siblings? What are their rights? I do have my sister. Where are their rights? Where are the rights of my mother? Tell me one thing.
Okay. So essentially the point being made there, Flavia, and I'm going to take this to you now, is that essentially men's rights are going to be eroded. That does seem to be problematic given the fact that women are so hugely disadvantaged in our society.
Oh, well, you just made a comment whether anybody has thought this through. And I want to say for the last nearly 10 years, our organization has been concentrating only on this issue. We've also drafted a bill in Maharashtra and submitted, and it has been discussed in various forums in Maharashtra. And today we are very happy that the central government is pushing it. Now, if you remember, about 3 years ago, there was a bill to say breakdown of marriage should be a ground for divorce. And we said at the time, we opposed it very strongly, and we said it can only come along with property rights to women, because this is happening in every country. It's not unique for India. Every other country has a right for maintenance for women, but they also have a property right for women, that at the time of divorce, property must be divided. You are talking about one-day marriage. I will talk about 20 years of marriage, and the woman is flogged there, and a husband has beaten her, thrown her out, and then she starts working. She is not even entitled for maintenance. How do we handle these kind of cases? I would say that one-day marriage breaking down is very, very less. Not even a 0.1%. But women after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years being thrown out of the marriage is a reality. Where does this woman go? Where does she stay? What is her shelter? What is her sustenance? She is old now, and she has contributed to this marriage. She has raised children in this marriage. She has supported his husband as he advanced in his career. Now what are you going to do for that woman? And it's not unique for India. Everywhere else, you see Singapore, you see Hong Kong, you see African countries, you see South Africa, you see Europe, you see America,
Right.
You see England. Everywhere these rights are there. So there's nothing unique about, oh, now India, men, men are going to be destroyed, and this is going to happen, that is going to happen. Now, about inheritance property, I want to say only one thing. I think this gentleman has got everything totally skewed up. That a wife is entitled only to husband's share in that entire property. Whatever is his share, acquired or inherited, that woman also will have a share in that property. Of course, there will be a stipulation how many years of marriage the woman has been in, and
Right.
accordingly laws and discretion of the court will be there. It is nothing like, courts are all the time willing to extra eager to give all the property rights to women. That is not the case. What we are trying to say is an equitable distribution, so that this woman is not thrown on the street tomorrow and totally dependent on the husband's vagaries. He'll give up his job, so she has no maintenance. He has moved out, she has no maintenance.
Right.
How are you going to handle this situation?
Right, I think that does sum up the larger issue, with the difference between sort of 1 day and 20 years and the larger position of women. Rajan, I know you want to give your rejoinder to that, but let me quickly bring Samit in for his take on the larger issue. And really, the larger political will there seems to be pretty much across the board, which is good to see. I mean, I'm glad that the political will is there, but has the political will, as Flavia was putting it, really thought things through?
No, let me tell you that today also, when the Home Minister was speaking about it, he made a passing comment that it was because of BJP's intentions that these changes were inculcated. And let me remind my able friends that last year when we had a debate on the Irreversible Marriage Breakdown Amendment Bill, then BJP had categorically stated that until and unless woman is provided with a financial support system, this irreversible breakdown of marriage, granting divorce, would not suffice. So it's very essential in a country like ours, where 74% of women totally are homemakers and are dependent on their home. I would not say dependent on husband, dependent on the home for their sustenance, and where even the courts are very conservative in granting maintenance to women, in the fact that approximately 5% to at best 35% of the husband's income goes for maintenance of the woman in a conservatively placed judicial system of India. But the only worry for me is, this is not my party's worry, personally I believe, my party must be thinking about it, but I personally think that after the Sahabano case, what happens to a majority of women, the Muslim half of the country, would their marriage law also would be amended? I believe we have enough lawyers over here, they can enlighten us with that aspect as well.
Well, I'm going to take that to the lawyers, that we know that this has been the larger issue of whether there should be a unified code or not, but when it comes to this kind of legislation, it does exclude the minority. Aparna, first you, and then Flavia. Aparna, I'll quickly toss it to you now.
So the marriage law amendment bill covers only the Hindu Marriage Act and the Special Marriage Act, which is for interreligious marriages, or even for marriages of the same religion that do not want to adopt the religious laws. So yes, it does not cover Muslim marriages performed under the Muslim personal laws. There have been judicial interventions post Shah Bano to provide maintenance rights to women,
Right.
and those are maintenance rights to women, not property rights. They can be creatively interpreted by the judiciary, but yes, in the balancing of rights of religious minorities versus rights of
Right.
women, this has been traditionally a casualty in that debate, the rights of women.
Right. So we will, of course, get back to this discussion as soon as possible. We do have to quickly break into some breaking news that we have just coming in. I would like all of our guests to stay with us as we quickly go over to that breaking news that we have coming in right now, and that is the latest development. Welcome back. You're watching The Social Network on NDTV 24/7. Our guest still with us, debating whether the amendment to the marriage law is going to actually be looked at as far as inheritance is concerned, will fit what it's supposed to do, and whether the protests against it have legitimacy. And in fact, Rajan Bhasin, you were responding to the arguments which were being made by both Flavia as well as Aparna about how women's rights over the last 50, 60 years since independence have in a sense been undermined, and they do need to be protected. I mean, you can't argue that, can you?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
See,
how?
basically Flavia was talking about the laws across the world. So there is no country in the world as of today is having such a Draconian law where you are giving a inherited or inheritable property to the wife, and even you do not have a duration of the marriage. So first thing first, there is no such country. And why are we creating this law here in India? I do not know. Already we have so many marital laws which are even Draconian laws, if you could count about 498A and all the maintenance laws, which are already being misused so heavily.
No country
NCRB
is
data
Let
says
me tell you,
that
first of all,
there is no conviction rate, only 2% is the conviction rate. 62,000 married men, husband, please listen to me, are doing suicide every year.
but is there a country which kills
I think Flavia,
tell that, first of all.
We are going to get Flavia in on that. I think she wants to counter that as well. Flavia?
Yes, I want to know, there's no country where dowry has to be given at the time of marriage and women are killed for dowry and laws have to be enacted to stop men from killing their wives. There's no country is that. So that is the first point why India needs special kind of law to protect its women. You see, you go to America, you go to England, you go to Europe, nobody asks for dowry at the time of marriage, nobody kills women for dowry. So when we are comparing, let us compare the status of women in India, why women need special kind of protection. There's no other country which kills the female fetus before it is born. So you have to have a special law that you cannot have testing to determine the status of the fetus. So this is the level in which we are living. So let us take that into account and let us look at the poverty and destitution that divorce causes women. Desertion, destitution, divorce. Where are women after that? You see, each
I think
woman,
that point-
she comes down so
I think
many
the point is
guns.
fair, Rajan. I think the point is
Let me
fair.
argue on this. Then why the NCRB data is different? You are talking about dowry deaths.
Are you saying dowry deaths don't
look
happen?
at
I am
NCRB
not
data.
saying this. I am not saying. But the number of cases which are being filed and number of cases which are being convicted are so much different. So there are so many false cases which are happening. So why there is no misuse clause in the new bill? I am saying there are already so many marital laws which are going on and which are being misused heavily. Why there is no misuse clause in the new bill?
Aparna,
And
do you want
where
to-
you are
do you
giving
want to
so
counter
where
that?
you are giving so much authority to the wife. Why there is no
I
misuse
think,
clause?
I want
Let's put
to
a misuse
comment
clause.
on
Why-
the
Let's make it a
issue.
general.
Okay, Flavia, we'll come to you in a moment. I think Aparna wants to.
I really need to.
I think Aparna wants to take that.
First thing, I'm not sure how a misuse clause would operate in the context of marriage laws. Second, to the point,
I can tell can tell you how the
No, we'll come to you.
We'll come back.
Let her finish.
Second point is with respect to 498A. The truth remains that most of the cases of 498A that are filed in this case, in this country, are filed tagged with dowry debts. The woman is already dead.
Absolutely
in
no.
most of
You
the
have no data of the NCRB if you are
this
talking
is,
about.
I am also looking at the NCRB data. I don't know what NCRB data you are looking at.
I'm assuming Ratan, that there was data looked at when these things are put in place. Samit, did you want to?
I'm not talking about the
Can I just one minute? Let's come back.
I just want to make a very simple statement over here. Look, every law that is enacted has the propensity of being abused. But it's only with time that one matures and one knows how to place the checks and the balances. And it happened in the dowry law also. The courts have come up with checks and balances, and this happens in a maturing society. So we should know as to how to mature in a very positive manner. But let me bring in a bit of humor over here. I believe things are going in a very different manner. There's a famous saying about marriage that marriages are made in heaven, and so are lightning and thunders. Similarly, I would say all the laws relating to this are made with good intention. We should not see all the laws with the case that they have the propensity of turning into lightning and thunders. Yes, abuses would be taken care of.
Only good
Can I
intention can be.
one more link between
absolutely.
498A and the need for a strong marital property law is this, that women are often locked into abusive marriages because they have nowhere to turn to, and they are entitled to. So there are two reasons why then marital property laws are essential. One, because a woman contributes to a marriage and therefore she is entitled because of the work that she puts in, and second, in order to prevent her being locked in without recourse into an abusive marriage. So there's this other link between
let's make a clause. If it is a marital property and the woman is contributing 50%, then she should be get the right. It doesn't make a sense that she is getting into marriage, after one day she is getting my father's grandfather's property. If she is giving some money,
I think the one day example is a little extreme, but let me quickly go over to Flavia. Flavia, we keep talking about marital property. In this case, what exactly does that mean?
Actually, you need to define what is marital property. And we have a whole list where we have listed out various kinds of property, including, supposing there is a shop and the shop has business. There is agricultural property. There are various kinds. There is a provident fund. There is the end of service benefits. Now, which of them would constitute marital property and for what period? And other countries have defined it as per their financial situation, as per their economic situation. They have defined it. I don't think this is an Herculean task. And then you should leave the rest, the fine tuning, to the discretion of the court. Today also, even in maintenance laws and other laws, the judges use their discretion. So you define as much as possible, put it in the court, and let the courts have discretion to decide what is fair, what is just. Why does our panelists talk in this manner of after one day she is going to get father's property, grandfather's property, she is going to get after X number of years the number of the property that husband is entitled to. That's all. In our country, a large property is HOA property. And the husband in most cases say, I don't earn anything. I give up my job. I don't have anything to give my wife. In that case, when the matrimonial house itself is a joint property, where will this woman go if there is no access to the property rights?
Right. Do you think that's a fair list?
Yes, I agree. There should be a clause, at least of 5 years, 7 years, whatever, that...
but overall, you think the list is fair?
See, it should be absolutely, it should be a gender neutral. If wife is entitled, husband should also be entitled, and that to a marital property only, not about the property of parents.
Right. Now, of course, it's almost time to wrap up the discussion, but I'm going to throw one last question open, because at the end of the day, anything which gets debated in Parliament, and after all, that's what's happening right now, comes down to pleasing certain people. And Samit, is there pleasing of vote banks going on here? Do you think suddenly there has been a wake-up call that women are a huge part of the voters, and you want to empower those women to come and be a part of the voting populace?
Since time is less, let me be very quick and crisp in my reply. First, as I mentioned in the opening statement, it was because of BJP's proactive approach that these amendments were sought by the Congress government. And secondly, right now we had a breaking news. The marriage between CBI and the government is in a very bad shape. I believe with that kind of marriage between CBI and the government
I think we're
in
mixing
place,
up topics
in
here,
place.
Samvit.
No,
We're
no,
not going to
no.
let you
This is
finish
very
that, because
important.
one
This
issue-
marriage,
we're not going to confuse one issue with another. We're going to leave Samvit to take that up on a completely different panel. But thank you all of you, Rajan, Samvit, Aparna and Flavia, for joining us with that, with those inputs on what really is a very, very important issue, which really the 20 minutes of discussion we have just had here doesn't even begin to touch. Do women need those rights? Yes, they do. Do there have to be checks and balances? Yes, there do. And this is going to be something that the group of ministers now looking at those particular amendments will have to take very seriously indeed. Well, that's all from me on the social network. Thanks for watching. Tell us what you thought.